Hey, welcome to John Eats Cheap. I'm in my pantry today. We had a lot of comments on a pantry picture we posted a while back. I've always been a fan of pantries, and I'm lucky to have a nice big one. But you know what? We're still locked down because of the pandemic. Fall is here. We're going into the winter months. We don't like to go out as much. You want to keep this thing stocked, right? I have 10 things that are kind of must always have on hand pantry items. Plus we get to keep, the big containers of everything else in here. But let's show you the John Eats Cheap top 10 items you need in your pantry going into fall. Item number one, because it's so versatile, pasta, is spaghetti, egg noodles, macaroni. You know what? Ramen noodles would be that way too. Everybody thinks of them as cheap. They're really easy to make, and you just throw some extra stuff in them. It can make a lot of different things. Great filling food, pasta and noodles to have on hand. That's number one.
And they're on sale a lot for like $1.
They are. Stock up because the shelf life is unbelievable as well. Number two item I always have, we don't eat them that often, instant mashed potatoes. Now, I grew up on instant mashed potatoes. My mom made everything from scratch except potatoes. I met Mrs. Cheap. She said, "You don't do real potatoes? I'll show you how." That's all we ever have ever since. But instant mashed potatoes can thicken up stuff a little bit if you're making like a creamy potato soup, something like that. If you just don't feel like, potatoes take half an hour, 45 minutes to make. These take like 5 minutes. If you're pouring gravy over them or chicken and noodles anyway, these will do the trick. So I always have instant mashed potatoes. Item number three, as I mentioned, if you're gonna put gravy on it, hey, you gotta have gravy, right? I do gravy from scratch if I'm doing something that I can make gravy with, like fried chicken, but sometimes chicken gravy, you put that in chicken soup, it thickens it up, adds flavor. Beef gravy, same way, I use it for beef and noodles. Hot beef sandwiches, you probably don't have a lot of beef gravy. This stuff does the trick. Always have the gravy packets, and they're nice and cheap. You can get them for like 29 cents at Aldi or 39 cents at Walmart. Number four, broth. Beef broth and chicken broth. I get them in the quart containers because they have a cap and they'll stay in the fridge long enough for you to use them. Use these for gravies, for soups, you use it for so many things. Deglaze the pan for a sauce. You see me use chicken broth and beef broth a lot, so I always have it on hand. It's always in the pantry. Number five, much like the broth, you use these in a lot of casseroles, the cream soups. I call it the trifecta: cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, cream of celery. Some of them I use two in, but you gotta have a bunch of the cream soups, and they're kind of hard to find now, and especially going into winter, because everybody likes the tater tot casserole, the noodle casserole. So I always have on hand lots of cream of soups. And you know what? You get the off brands, the grocery store brands, they're a lot cheaper. Number six, speaking of soups, I always have a couple of soups on hand, and one of them is missing right now. We're going into the fall and winter, and we don't have any chicken noodle, but you got to have about 20 cans of chicken noodle soup because everybody loves it and can eat it anytime, but especially when you're sick. Also, I make my own chili, but not for chili dogs, and sometimes I don't have any on hand or the ingredients. I have a couple of favorite brands of chili. This is just the Aldi brand, pretty cheap. It's like $1.09 with the beans in it. A little more without the beans, but I always have several cans of chili, so I can just throw them in the pot, heat it up, and eat it. Number seven is canned tomatoes, whole diced tomato sauce, tomato paste. These go in a lot of things, sometimes all together, but if you're making chili, you're making spaghetti sauce, so many things you can make with canned tomatoes. They're inexpensive. Again, you buy them on sale, they're really inexpensive. And of course, they're canned, so they're good for a couple of years. Stock that pantry with all the tomato products canned. Number eight, speaking of canned things that have a long shelf life, gotta always have some tuna and some canned meat. Spam. Okay, I've had this about a year, haven't eaten it yet. Mrs. Cheap is shaking her head. But we also love the canned corned beef, which the least expensive place to buy that I found is Aldi. It's usually the cheapest there. So now I have to get canned corned beef and chicken noodle soup. That's on the list. But just a few canned meats. You can do a lot with all of these too. Number nine, speaking of canned, how about canned mushrooms? I always have several cans of mushrooms. Again, so many things. You can throw these into a pot of soup. You can have them for pizza. Now, we do prefer fresh mushrooms, but you know, they don't last as long. If you're not going to the store very often, they're not going to last very long. So we always have some canned mushrooms, also canned vegetables, a few cans of corn to put into casseroles, things like that. But the canned veggies and some fruits aren't bad. You know, sometimes you get that craving for peaches. Pretty good. Stock them up. And number 10, you know, for those times when you had a long day, it's a rough night, maybe you're sick, you just want that crunch, you got to have some snack crackers. I mean, you should always have, we always have oyster crackers and saltine crackers. Yes, those are kind of normal. But Cheez-Its, you know, just the really comfort crackers. And when Mrs. Cheap is sick, she always has to have chicken and a biscuit with chicken noodle soup. So we always have chicken and a biscuit on sale too. And as we found out in an earlier Johnny's Cheap video, actually the generic kind of ones at the Dollar Tree taste pretty close. Mrs. Cheap says no, but they do. They taste pretty close. But I got these on sale. These go on sale about once every 3 or 4 weeks, where you can save almost $1 a box or something. So wait for them to go on sale, long shelf life, and stock that pantry. There you go, John Eats Cheap's 10 must-have items for the pantry going into the fall and winter. And of course, I'm not counting the staples like rice and flour and sugar and that type of stuff. I have a lot of that, and I have other items too, but these are, in fact, maybe we'll do a video on basic items you should have all the time in the pantry. But these are what we have that you can make a lot with, that are pretty inexpensive to always have in the pantry during the cold months of the year. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We'd love to have you. Click on the bell too so you get notified when we have a new video. You can watch it, enjoy it, and thanks so much for watching John Eats Cheap.